The moment Judge Caprio's voice broke, a homeless man's truth that changed everything. I've never seen Judge Frank Caprio cry. Not once. Not during the hardest sentencing hearings, not during the most heart-wrenching testimonies. But on a cold Tuesday morning in March, I watched this man, this pillar of strength and compassion, break down completely. His shoulders shook, tears streamed down his weathered cheeks, and for a full 30 seconds he couldn't speak. The courtroom went silent. Even the stenographer stopped typing. We all knew we were witnessing something extraordinary. The day started like any other in Providence Municipal Court. I grabbed my usual coffee from the cart outside, nodded to the security guards I'd known for years, and climbed the worn marble steps to Courtroom 6A, Judge Caprio's courtroom. It was 8:47 a.m., and already the gallery was filling with people waiting for their cases to be called. Parking violations mostly, with a few traffic citations sprinkled in. Normal stuff. Tuesday morning routine. But nothing about what happened that day was routine. The man walked in at 9:15 a.m., just as Judge Caprio was finishing up with a college student who'd parked in a fire lane. I noticed him immediately, and I'm sure everyone else did too. He wasn't like the other defendants. His clothes, a brown jacket that had seen better decades, jeans stiff with dirt, and boots held together with what looked like duct tape, told a story before he ever opened his mouth. His hair was long, tangled, and gray at the temples, despite him looking no older than 50. But it was his eyes that got me. Hollow, haunted, like he'd seen things the rest of us only have nightmares about. He carried a plastic grocery bag in one hand. Everything he owned, I'd later learn, fit in that single bag. Case number 2024 PM 08847, the clerk called out. City of Providence versus Michael David Chen, parking violation. The man shuffled forward, and I could hear his boots squeaking against the polished floor. Each step seemed to take enormous effort, like he was walking through water. He stopped at the defendant's podium, gripping its edges with both hands. The plastic bag dangled from his wrist. Judge Caprio looked up from his paperwork, and I saw something flash across his face. Recognition, not of the man, but of the type of struggle he represented. Frank Caprio had grown up in Federal Hill, the son of Italian immigrants. His father sold insurance door to door during the Depression. The judge knew poverty. He knew desperation. You could see it in how his expression softened immediately. "Good morning, sir," Judge Caprio said, his voice gentle. "Mr. Chen, is it?" "Yes, Your Honor." The man's voice was barely a whisper, rough from disuse or maybe just from too many nights sleeping in the cold. "Mr. Chen, it says here you received a parking citation on January 18th. The ticket indicates your vehicle was parked on Westminster Street for 72 consecutive hours, which violates city ordinance. The fine is $75. Can you tell me what happened?" This was standard procedure. Judge Caprio always asked for the story. Unlike other judges who just processed cases like an assembly line, Frank Caprio believed every person deserved to be heard. I'd seen him dismiss countless tickets after hearing people's circumstances. Single mothers working 2 jobs, elderly folks on fixed incomes, immigrants struggling to understand the parking signs. But something about this case felt different from the moment Mr. Chen opened his mouth. "Your Honor," he began, then stopped. His jaw worked like he was chewing on words too difficult to swallow. "Your Honor, that car is my home." The courtroom seemed to hold its breath. Judge Caprio leaned forward slightly, his reading glasses sliding down his nose. "I'm sorry, could you repeat that?" "The car is where I live." Mr. Chen's voice cracked. "I've been homeless for 14 months. The car is all I have." I'd been typing notes on my laptop, but my fingers froze over the keys. Around me, I could hear people shifting in their seats, could feel the energy in the room change. This wasn't just another parking case anymore. Judge Caprio removed his glasses completely, folding them slowly and setting them on the bench. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. softer, almost paternal. "Mr. Chen, how did you become homeless?" And that's when the story came out. Not all at once, but in pieces, like a dam breaking slowly under pressure. Mr. Chen had been a mechanical engineer, worked for the same manufacturing company in Warwick for 17 years. He showed us a picture from his wallet, a faded photo of him in a shirt and tie, standing in front of some kind of industrial machinery, smiling. The man in that photo looked nothing like the man standing before us. "I had a house," he said, staring at the photo like it was from another lifetime. "A little ranch in Cranston, nothing fancy, but it was mine. Well, the bank's in mine." A ghost of a smile crossed his face, then vanished. "I had a daughter, Emily. She was 8 when my wife got sick." Judge Caprio's hand moved to his chest, right over his heart. I knew why. The judge's own wife, Joyce, had battled cancer years ago. She'd survived, but Frank never forgot what that fight was like. "Ovarian cancer," Mr. Chen continued. His voice was flat now, like he'd told this story so many times in his head that the emotion had been worn smooth. "Stage 4. They gave her 18 months. She fought for 2 years. He looked up at Judge Caprio, and I saw tears gathering in his eyes. 2 years of chemo, radiation, experimental treatments. I used every penny we had. Maxed out credit cards. Took out a second mortgage. Borrowed from my retirement. Borrowed from family who could barely spare it. I would have sold my organs if it would have helped. She died on a Tuesday morning," he said, and now the tears were falling, dripping off his chin onto his dirty jacket. "April 14th, 2022. Emily and I were holding her hands. Her last words were, 'Take care of our baby girl.' I glanced around the courtroom. A woman in the 3rd row was crying silently. One of the security guards, Martinez, tough guy who I'd seen break up fights without flinching, was wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. And Judge Caprio's face. I'd never seen him look like that. His eyes were red-rimmed, his mouth a tight line as he fought to maintain composure. "I'm so sorry," Judge Caprio said, and his voice was thick with emotion. "I'm so very sorry for your loss." Mr. Chen nodded, swallowing hard. "After she passed, I couldn't keep up. The medical debt was over $300,000. The hospital bills just kept coming, even though she was gone. Collections agencies called every day, multiple times a day. I tried to work, tried to keep it together for Emily, but I couldn't focus, couldn't sleep. I'd see my wife in every room of the house. I started having panic attacks at work, couldn't breathe, couldn't think." He paused, staring at nothing. "They let me go after I messed up a major project. Said they understood, said they were sorry, but the company couldn't afford mistakes like that. I got 6 weeks severance, 6 weeks to figure out how to survive with a mortgage, a mountain of debt, and a little girl to raise alone." "What about family?" Judge Caprio asked. "Parents? Siblings?" "My parents passed away years ago. My wife's parents blamed me." His voice dropped to a whisper. "Said I didn't get her to doctors fast enough, didn't push hard enough for better treatment. They sued me for wrongful death. Can you believe that? Their lawyer said if I'd been a better husband, maybe she'd still be alive. The case got dismissed, but they took Emily, filed for custody, said I was emotionally unstable, financially irresponsible, said Emily needed a stable home." Judge Caprio's hand was now fully pressed against his chest, like he was trying to hold his heart in place. "They took your daughter?" "Emergency custody hearing. I couldn't afford a good lawyer. The public defender they gave me was handling 40 cases. She did her best, but..." He shrugged helplessly. "The judge ruled that Emily would be better off with her grandparents until I could demonstrate financial stability and complete a psychiatric evaluation. That was 11 months ago. I've completed the evaluation. The psychiatrist said I have depression and PTSD, but I'm not a danger to myself or my daughter. But the financial stability..." He laughed bitterly. "How am I supposed to achieve financial stability when I'm living in my car?" The courtroom was absolutely silent. You could have heard a pin drop on the carpet. Every eye was on Mr. Chen, this broken man holding a plastic bag with his entire life inside it. "I lost the house 4 months after Emily went to her grandparents. Foreclosure. I moved into my car, a 2006 Honda Civic. That car became everything to me. My shelter, my storage unit, my last shred of dignity. I park it legally, move it every 72 hours to comply with city ordinances, use the bathroom at gas stations and the library, shower at the community center when I can afford the $2 fee." He looked directly at Judge Caprio, and I saw desperation in his eyes. Raw, unfiltered desperation. "But in January, Your Honor, in January I got the flu, really bad flu, fever of 103. I could barely move. I parked on Westminster Street because it's near the emergency room, and I thought if I got worse, if I needed help, I'd at least be close. But I was too sick to move the car. Too sick to even realize 3 days had passed. When I finally recovered enough to notice, this ticket was on my windshield." Judge Caprio leaned back in his chair, and I saw him close his eyes briefly. When he opened them, they were glistening with tears. "Mr. Chen," the judge said, and his voice was shaking now, "where is your daughter now?" "With her grandparents in Massachusetts. I get supervised visits once a month, 1 hour, in a room with a social worker watching everything I say, everything I do, writing notes about whether I'm fit to be her father." The tears were flowing freely down his face now. "She asked me last month why I don't have a house anymore. She's 9 years old, and she asked me why her daddy lives in a car. What am I supposed to tell her? How do I explain that I spent everything trying to save her mother, and now I've lost everything, including her?" That's when it happened. Judge Frank Caprio, the man who'd presided over thousands of cases with wisdom and grace, who'd been a judge for nearly 40 years, who'd seen every form of human struggle and suffering, he broke. His face crumpled. Tears spilled down his cheeks, and his shoulders began to shake with silent sobs. He pulled off his reading glasses and covered his face with one hand. The bailiff stood up, uncertain. The clerk looked at me, eyes wide. The entire courtroom sat frozen, watching this respected judge weep openly. For 30 seconds, maybe more, Judge Caprio couldn't speak. He just sat there crying, while Mr. Chen stood at the podium, clutching his plastic bag, looking lost and confused, like he didn't know if he'd said something wrong, if he was in more trouble now. Finally, Judge Caprio lowered his hand. His face was streaked with tears, his eyes red. He took a shuddering breath and looked at Mr. Chen with such profound compassion that I felt my own eyes burning. "Mr. Chen," he said, his voice barely steady, "I need you to listen to me very carefully. What happened to you? What you've endured? Losing your wife, losing your daughter, losing everything you worked for. That's not failure. That's love. That's sacrifice. That's what a good husband and father does. He gives everything for his family. Everything. And sometimes, even when we give everything, life still breaks us. That's not your fault. Do you hear me? This is not your fault." Mr. Chen's face crumpled, and he began sobbing, deep, wrenching sobs that came from somewhere primal. Judge Caprio stood up from the bench, which judges almost never do during proceedings. He walked around to where Mr. Chen stood and did something I'd never seen in any courtroom anywhere. He embraced him. Judge Frank Caprio, in his black robes, put his arms around this homeless man and held him while he cried. The courtroom erupted in sniffles and quiet sobs. I wasn't even pretending to take notes anymore. I was crying too. We all were. "This ticket is dismissed," Judge Caprio said firmly, still holding Mr. Chen. "You're not paying a single penny, do you understand? Not 1 cent. Mr. Chen nodded against the judge's shoulder, unable to speak. "But I'm not done," Judge Caprio continued. He pulled back, holding Mr. Chen by the shoulders, looking him directly in the eyes. "I'm going to make some calls. I have contacts with family services, with housing assistance. with job placement programs. I can't promise everything will be fixed immediately, but I promise you this. You will not face this alone anymore. Not anymore. Judge Caprio turned to his clerk. Linda, get me the numbers for Roger Williams Family Services, the Rhode Island Coalition for the Homeless, and Father O'Brien at St. Patrick's. Tell them Judge Caprio is calling personally about an emergency case. Yes, Your Honor, Linda said, wiping her own tears. The judge turned back to Mr. Chen. Do you have a phone? A prepaid cell? Minutes are almost out, but yes. Give Linda your number. I want you to call this court at 2 o'clock this afternoon. By then, I'll have appointments set up for you. We're going to get you into temporary housing first. Then we're going to work on employment. And then, his voice grew fierce, determined. We're going to get you your daughter back. Because Emily needs her father, and you, sir, have proven you're exactly the kind of father she deserves. Mr. Chen collapsed back into sobs, but this time there was something different in them. A sound that might have been hope. Judge Caprio pulled out his wallet from inside his robes. He took out several bills, I couldn't see the denominations, and pressed them into Mr. Chen's hand. This is not charity. This is not pity. This is one father to another, one human being to another. You get yourself a decent meal today. You fill up your gas tank. You get those phone minutes. And you call us at 2 o'clock. Your Honor, I can't. Yes, you can, and you will. That's an order from the court. Judge Caprio smiled through his tears. I'm a judge, remember? You have to do what I say. That got a small laugh from Mr. Chen, the first glimpse of light in those haunted eyes. As Mr. Chen turned to leave, Judge Caprio called out, Michael. The use of his first name made the man turn back. You survived the worst thing a person can survive. You survived losing your soulmate. You fought for her with everything you had, and you fought to survive every day since. That makes you one of the strongest people I've ever met. Don't you dare give up now. Not when your little girl needs you. Not when you're this close to finding your way back. Mr. Chen nodded, clutching the money and his plastic bag, and walked out of the courtroom with something he hadn't had when he walked in: hope. After he left, Judge Caprio returned to the bench, but didn't immediately call the next case. He sat there, wiping his eyes with a handkerchief, composing himself. The courtroom remained silent, respectful of what we'd all just witnessed. Finally, he looked out at all of us, the defendants waiting for their cases, the lawyers, the court staff, me with my laptop. Let this be a reminder to all of us, he said quietly, that we never truly know what burdens the people around us are carrying. That man came in here expecting to be judged, to be punished, to be treated as just another case number. But every person who walks through these doors is carrying a story. And sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is simply listen with compassion. He cleared his throat, pulling himself together. Next case. But I couldn't move on to the next case. Not yet. I sat there thinking about Michael Chen, about his lost wife and his missing daughter and his plastic bag of possessions, about how quickly a life can unravel, how thin the line is between stability and disaster. At 2 o'clock that afternoon, I was still in the courthouse working on another story. I happened to pass by Judge Caprio's chambers and heard him on the phone. His door was slightly ajar. Father O'Brien, it's Frank Caprio. Yes, I'm well, thank you. Listen, I need your help with something urgent. Yes, it's that kind of case. He needs a place to stay tonight, somewhere safe and warm. You can? God bless you, Father. And one more thing. Do you still have those connections with the Legal Aid Society? This man needs a family law attorney, pro bono if possible. He's trying to get custody of his daughter. His in-laws. Exactly. Thank you, Father. You're doing God's work. I heard him make 3 more calls before I left. One to a job counseling service, one to a friend who apparently ran a small engineering firm, one to someone he called Tony about getting Mr. Chen some clothes and basic necessities. Judge Frank Caprio, who'd already done his job by dismissing the ticket, was spending his afternoon making calls, cashing in favors, building a support network for a man he'd met 2 hours ago. That's who Frank Caprio is. 3 months later, I got a message from the judge's clerk asking me to come to his chambers. When I arrived, there was someone with him, a man in clean jeans, a button-down shirt, freshly cut hair. It took me a moment to recognize Michael Chen. "I wanted you to know," Mr. Chen said, shaking my hand, "in case you were wondering what happened. I wanted someone to know that what Judge Caprio did, it saved my life." He told me the rest of the story. The judge's calls had led to a spot in a transitional housing program. The program had led to counseling and job training. The job training had led to a position at a small engineering firm, the one owned by Judge Caprio's friend. 3 months of steady employment and stable housing had been enough to go back to family court. "I got her back," Mr. Chen said, and his whole face transformed with joy. "Last week, Emily moved in with me. We have an apartment in Pawtucket. It's small, but it's ours. She has her own room. She decorated it with posters of horses. She loves horses now, apparently. I missed so much of her life, but I'm going to be there for all of it from now on." Judge Caprio was smiling, really smiling, in a way I'd rarely seen. "Tell him the best part." Mr. Chen pulled out his phone and showed me a photo. A little girl with dark hair and her father's eyes, hugging a golden retriever puppy, both of them grinning at the camera. "We adopted a dog last weekend. Emily named her Hope." My eyes filled with tears for the second time in that courtroom. "I wanted to thank you too," Mr. Chen said to me. "The judge said you were there that day, that you witnessed what happened. I wanted you to know the end of the story. I wanted you to know that sometimes, when everything is dark, when you've lost everything, one person's compassion can change everything. Judge Caprio didn't just dismiss a parking ticket that day. He gave me a reason to keep fighting." After Mr. Chen left, I sat with Judge Caprio in his chambers. I'd known him for years, covered hundreds of his cases, but I'd never felt moved to ask him personal questions. That day was different. "Why did you do all of that?" I asked. "You could have just dismissed the ticket and moved on." Judge Caprio was quiet for a moment, staring at a photo on his desk of his own family, his wife, his children, his grandchildren, all of them smiling, safe, loved. "Adam," he said finally, "I grew up with nothing. My father worked himself to the bone to give us a better life. I know what it's like to struggle. But more than that, I could have been Michael Chen. Any of us could be. One tragedy, one illness, one stroke of bad luck, and our entire lives can fall apart. We all like to think we're immune, that our hard work and planning will protect us. But life doesn't care about our plans." He turned to look at me. When Michael stood in my courtroom that day telling his story, I didn't see a parking violation. I saw a father who'd lost everything fighting to save his wife, and who'd lost even more trying to survive afterward. I saw myself. I saw my father. I saw every person who's ever been knocked down by life and didn't know how to get back up. So I did what I hoped someone would do for me if I ever found myself in that position. I did what I want my children to do for others. I did what we all should do every single day. I saw another human being's pain and I did something about it. Judge Caprio smiled, but there were tears in his eyes again. "The law is important, Adam. Order is important, but compassion? Compassion is everything. Without it, we're just machines processing cases. With it, we have the chance to actually change lives, to save them even." I left his chambers that day with a story I knew I'd never forget. Not the usual parking tickets and traffic violations I covered, but something profound. A reminder that sometimes justice isn't about punishment. Sometimes it's about seeing people, really seeing them, and choosing to help rather than condemn. Michael Chen came to the courthouse every few months after that, always bringing Emily. She'd wait in the hallway, coloring or reading, while her father briefly stopped by Judge Caprio's chambers to say hello, to show him Emily's latest report card, to share their small victories. Each time, Judge Caprio would stop whatever he was doing, come out to meet Emily, ask about school and the dog and what she wanted to be when she grew up. "A veterinarian," she told him once, "because Dad says you rescued us, and I want to rescue animals." Judge Caprio had to turn away for a moment, wiping his eyes. That's the thing about compassion. It ripples outward in ways we can't predict. A dismissed parking ticket became temporary housing. Temporary housing became a job. A job became a custody win. A custody win became a father and daughter reunited. And that reunion inspired a little girl to want to spend her life helping others. All because one judge chose to see the human being, not just the case number. All because Frank Caprio asked, "What happened?" instead of just reading the fine. All because he let himself feel, let himself cry, let himself break down in the face of another person's suffering. I've covered courts for over 2 decades now. I've seen justice served and denied, seen the system work and fail, seen judges who cared and judges who were just counting the minutes until retirement. But I've never seen anything like what I witnessed that Tuesday morning when Judge Frank Caprio broke down and cried for a homeless man holding a plastic bag. That wasn't weakness. That was the strongest thing I've ever seen. Because it takes real strength to let yourself feel someone else's pain. It takes courage to cry in front of a courtroom full of people. And it takes profound humanity to turn that feeling into action, to not just sympathize, but to actually do something, to make calls and cash in favors and personally invest in a stranger's future. Michael Chen was right. Judge Caprio didn't just dismiss a parking ticket that day. He saved a life. He reunited a family. He reminded everyone in that courtroom, and hopefully everyone who hears this story, that we have the power to help each other, that our compassion matters, that sometimes the most important thing we can do is simply care. In a world that often feels cold and indifferent, where it's easy to become numb to other people's struggles, Judge Frank Caprio showed us something different. He showed us that one person's tears, one person's empathy, one person's willingness to get involved can change everything. I'm Adam Broderick, and I've been a court reporter for 23 years. I've written thousands of stories. But this one, the day Judge Caprio broke down for a homeless man who'd lost everything, this is the one that changed me. This is the one that reminds me why I do this job. Because sometimes, just sometimes, the system works the way it should. Not through rigid application of rules, but through recognition of our shared humanity. And that's a story worth telling.